What's important to you? My mission is to ask as many people as possible this question, because I believe once you know what's important, you can design and build a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. My name is James Dean. I'm a life coach, and I hope this podcast inspires you to uncover what's important to you. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at James Dean Coaching, or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also learn how I can help you understand what's important at jamesdeancoaching.com. Today's guest spent over 40 years in Bank of Ireland and describes himself as having had 7 different careers within the bank in the UK and Ireland. On finishing with the bank over a year ago, he set up his own business and is currently working with clients in the insurance and telecoms sectors. He is also a lecturer for the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply Programme. He is an avid runner, having completed his first marathon in Dublin in 1981, and has used his passion for running to develop successful health and wellbeing initiatives, including Couch to 5K programs. He is also a volunteer coach with children for community games and the Special Olympics. He is a family man and sees getting and maintaining a balance in our busy lives as being central to our own well-being. A key element to this is working hard to stay connected to family and friends in a business and social context. Today we find out what's important to Conor Patton. Hi Conor, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi James, you're very welcome. Yeah, delighted to be here.
Brilliant stuff. We're going to go straight into it, Conor, and I'm going to ask the first question, which is, what's important to you?
That's a great question, James. When I saw the start of that, I thought, and you know, I've been defined by my family, really. They've been important to me right throughout my entire career. And I'm talking about my wife, kids, and even the extended family. And I have to say, I spend quite a bit of time trying to keep connecting to family and to friends. So just to keep that personal communication piece up and open all the time. And even to this day, my kids are in their 20s now and 30s, and people say to me, do you not let them off? But I still go to their sports events. I still go to see their activities. I enjoy it for me. And I haven't ever asked them if they enjoy me being there. I think they do, but you know, sometimes maybe they'd rather I wasn't. But certainly the whole family and the whole connection has been critical to me. And you know, throughout my career at different times, I remember quite some time back, I was working in the UK over and back each week, and I was spending a lot of time over there. And at the same time, I was doing an MBA, and I was also setting up a new business in Ireland, Premier Direct. I don't know if you recall it at the time, and I was working through that. And I came in one evening, and my wife opened the front door. My youngest daughter was about 2 at the time, and my wife said to her, "Oh, where's Daddy?" And she turned around and promptly ran into the living room and brought out a photograph of me from the mantelpiece, and I'm standing in front of her. And I thought, there's a telling message, you know. And I've told that story numerous times. That hit through to me. And around that time, I was then offered a permanent job in England. I had already been to England. That's where I met my wife, and we had come back in 91. And I was offered another permanent job over there at a more senior level. And that certainly was a defining moment, I would say, in my career, because I consciously decided not to take that role. So would that have put me on a more fast track, executive track, all of that? But I made that conscious decision, not for family reasons, not to take that role. Certainly that was a telling one for me, and to this day, family are still very important to me, and I mean the wider family.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really powerful story and image that you just said there, and you just shows, you say something in effectively in quite sort of, would it still be in almost early years of your career, or earlier years of your career, where you had to sort of make that decision as well then?
Yeah, it was probably mid-career, early to
Right.
mid-career, James. Yeah, at
Yeah.
that time, and we had come back from England, having been over there for 10 years, and this was then another 8 or 9 years later, and I had the option to go back then again,
Yeah.
and I had literally been just living out of airports and hotels, and everybody thinks that's fantastic, and really. The other piece with the family, then, I suppose, implicit in that is getting the whole balance in life.
Yeah.
And as you know, we would have known from the running and that, like I love the outdoor pursuits.
Yeah.
I think, you have to make time for that balance. You have to make time. I talked to people about going running and said, well, I haven't got time. You have to make time for what's important to you. And certainly I always try to do that, whether it's running, walking, golf, and then family time and work time, and making sure in as best as I can, being in the moment, whatever I'm doing. Sometimes I mightn't be doing that very well on the golf course, but or whatever, when I send a ball right or left. But it's making sure that I'm present when I'm there, whether it's with family, whether it's at work, and the other social activities, and getting that balance. Like as I went through the whole career, and then you'll be familiar with when we did the whole wealth and wellbeing program, and that was important to me, but important to me that I could engage with other people in that program who never saw themselves as being able to walk 5K, and even today, the number of people who say to me that program that we did was so influential in changing their lifestyle. To me, just that blows me away, because I would have seen it as natural. Okay, as I said, you have to make time to do exercise, but I would never have seen it as difficult to do.
Yeah.
But for some people, it can be just life-changing, and I certainly would impress on anyone. Just take that importance. That I've often heard the first 5 seconds or 10 seconds of the most important, and that is getting out the door. Take the next 10 steps, and that's the hard part, is getting out the door. And you have to work at it. It certainly is the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the key thing, I think, I'm listening from all of what you're saying there, is again about the making the time for all of those different things, and even in some ways it's making those different things a priority in their own right, and that you can have lots of things that are important to you. It's just how you then decide what you're doing and when you're doing it. And I think the point you said there is, which I can absolutely resonate with, is the being in the moment with the thing that you're doing. I think there's a lot of people that can struggle, that when they're, say, for example, in work in a meeting, they're thinking about the other thing they're missing, or vice versa. They're thinking about being with their family versus where they should be, or if they're with their family, they're thinking they're worrying about a meeting. So so I think it's an interesting one that you try and say to practice that being in the moment, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And maybe if we can elaborate on that a little bit, in that, you mentioned the word priorities there. At different times, each of those will have different emphasis and priority. So, for example, when I was doing the MBA, as I get near to the end of that takes a priority. Of course, other things get squeezed, but you still try not to drop them. So I may not have trained in running 6 or 7 days a week. Then I would have dropped the game of golf that week or that month, because I needed to get the MBA project done. Or if I have a family occasion to do, I'll either do my run at a different time, or I'll do golf in an evening or something. So it's about what's the priority at the time. And for many years, when I went on holidays with the kids when they were young and I was training for marathons, I used to get up at 6 a.m. to have the training done and be back before the kids got up, so that I didn't interrupt the family holiday. Because if I didn't do that, I'd be spending the day thinking, when am I going to get out to run?
Yeah.
And I'm neither with the family
Yeah.
and I'm neither getting the run done. And then at the end of the day, if I don't get the run done, I'm actually saying that was a waste of a day. Whereas
Yeah.
make the time, take the personal sacrifice and
Mm.
try to work it in. And that you know, is part of it. So absolutely the balance shifts all of the time.
Yeah.
And when different things are crucial or important to you and you're meeting deadlines or whatever it might be, but it's a case of trying not to drop anything in particular.
Absolutely. And going back to, I think we're going to go more into running in a minute, because obviously we both share a love for it and a passion for it. But in relation to more about your career and how you've managed to get through your career, what do you think is there something that you could say was the most important thing, or the most important things you were trying to achieve with your career, or was it more see what happens as it goes?
It was a bit of both, but more about having to make the path myself. So it was really saying, what do I need to do? So when I initially started in branch banking, I tried then to go to college to do accountancy in Galway. The bank asked me to go to help with development in the UK, which I did. And when I was there, I ended up in doing a degree course through the bank. And again, I focused on trying to get on that program and did that. That moved me then into the area office, as it was called, in London. And I ended up in the marketing team. So I then set about getting a marketing qualification to do that, which allowed me then to transfer and apply for jobs in Dublin when I wanted to come back. So it was always about where's the next step? What am I looking to do to get me to the next place? And having done that, I was able to move across a number of different businesses. And it's interesting, like having been in the bank for as long as it was, I would still say I had 7 distinct careers where I moved from businesses to branches to marketing and back into business in the general insurance business and ultimately into procurement. And it was about, when I'm looking to do each of those, what do I need to do to get there? And I remember having before I did the MBA, I was looking to get that sponsored for me, and I was told, but the MBA won't really add anything to you. And that was a question I had to face up to. What will it do for me? Because there's going to be a large commitment and pressure on family and everything else. And I pursued with it and got it done. And ironically, just after I had done it, I got a next serious promotion into a senior management level. Can I unequivocally say it was the MBA that did it, or was it all the other groundwork that I had done that fed through to it? But in terms of, one of the key things I would say is relationships with people is what helped progress my career in particular. And it wasn't about who you know, it was more about what relationships did I have with people, how strong were they, did they see the value that I was delivering to them that allowed them to recommend me further along the way. And it's about delivering results is key, and being, as I would like to think, becoming a trusted advisor to people that are coming to you for support, so they know you're going to deliver for them. They want you on their team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think even just from our sort of interactions of when I was, say, working within the banking world with yourself in a slightly different division, that sort of connection obviously came through. We were more in a sort of in the social side of the wellness side of it, where we came together within the company. But you can clearly see how that connection, or way you try and create connections, came through even from that area. But I think the other point that I take from what you just said there, though, is, and I think this is really crucial, is one is looking for those things that are going to move you to that next position or what you want to do, but it's also having to sometimes being prepared for the opportunity and doing the work. So when that opportunity arises, that you're able to step into it, that you're kind of not waiting, that you're always trying to do something to improve yourself, develop, learn something. So when that opportunity arises, you're in the best position to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great observation. You do have to be ready. It's a bit like people talk about in sport, the more you practice, the luckier you get.
Yes.
And it is about that. It's about being lucky. It's about being prepared for it. But it's also, and I know it's a key thing, when people see jobs, it's not being afraid to put your head up above the parapet and say,
Mm,
I can do this. No one should have to wait until they're 100%
yeah.
able to do it. You should
Yeah.
actually be moving on to the next level and saying, I can do this now. Sure, I have to learn.
Yeah.
Everybody has to learn, but you go in there knowing, well, I know at least 60 or 70% of what's required.
Mm,
I can do that. Now I learn the rest. And that's unfortunately what holds back quite a number of people. They think, oh, well, when they see job specs, I can't do that. I can't do that. And they don't apply. But actually, what about all the elements that you can do? And I think that's a key point for people to follow.
no, absolutely agree. As you've got to kind of, as you say, put yourself into a position where you're going to stretch yourself and grow as you're trying to do that new position or do that new role. And I think, you see, with that, I think it's the second thing I think that also puts people off maybe, or going for that next step, or that worry of going into things, is that sort of element to think, and I've been talking about it this week actually with the people, is that fear of failure or that fear of getting things wrong. Did you ever come across that within your career, that of those sort of things come across for yourself?
Absolutely. It's more, I would say, fear of, when you're going to do a presentation or you're going into a meeting, uh, and you're thinking, well, these people are more experienced than I am. These people know more than I know. Uh, but actually, they they don't.
Yeah,
It's you put them up there to know that they
yeah,
could be looking at you in the very same way, thinking,
yes,
well, here's Conor, here's James, look what they've done. We're coming here to listen to what they have to say as well. And it's a bit like when you're in that meeting, if you're sitting there thinking about these other things, you're actually not listening to what's going on in the meeting. And as a result, you're maybe missing the opportunity to make that good connection that you can make otherwise. Um, of course, and I've had failures and I've
yeah,
had to deal with those failures. And I would even say to my kids today, and you'll hear lots of people saying, it's how resilient are you when you've had
mm,
those failures? I would always go, anytime I've had failures and setbacks, is go and look for feedback from
yeah,
the people who actually rejected me and
yeah,
find out why and what I needed to do next time around.
mm,
And yes, there are projects you do that don't go the way they go. Learn from it, because you learn more from what you fail at than you learn from when you succeed. And certainly, I would have done that a lot, is to learn from a lot of mistakes, but also just
mm,
from not getting to achieve what you wanted to achieve.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely that thing of that ongoing thing. I think definitely for myself and for anyone, that asking for that feedback is a can be quite a sometimes a daunting thing for people. But again, I think that sort of when you're thinking, oh, it's daunting, you're actually already creating the scenario in your head again. So it's you're making something up. So it's really a case of reaching out, asking, and being open to what someone may say, and not taking as a personal attack or a personal sort of against you. It's just another way of how can you grow, develop, change, build that resiliency to move forward.
I think what you've said there, James, is absolutely on the money, because there are so many of us who, when somebody, we can't handle feedback.
Mm,
And we always see feedback as criticism and people putting you down, as opposed to saying, I'm going to you for feedback to help me grow.
yeah,
So I want you to be honest with me. Yeah, sure. Don't just maybe couch it for me in a way.
yeah,
Don't say that you're an absolute. Give
yeah.
it to me. Give me nice, robust feedback that I can work with,
Yeah.
as opposed to character assassination. if you like.
Yes.
So it's more, what can I do better? What can I improve, as opposed to saying, well, you know what, you know, your age is your age, or you're from wherever you're from. There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's what can I change? But we struggle to handle feedback. That certainly is so you're right on the money there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's really important and valuable information to take on board. And I think what's valuable is the coming from yourself when you've had the career that you've had, and those various changes that you've had throughout that career as well. I've got to have to get into running now, because that's really how we kind of met and sort of connected with each other. Where did your love of running come from?
Oh, Daisy, and I'm going to have to tell you my age, James. You know, I'm going to credit one person, and if he hears this, he's going to have a swell. Well, he's not, because he's already got an ego. My love of running started in Donegal with a guy by the name of Patsy McGonigal, who has been the Irish Olympics team manager for numerous times, and so on. He's still at the helm of the Finn Valley Athletic Club today. Dare I say, 50 years later. Okay.
Wow.
So that's the love of my running started back then. And I've had it ever since. And, you know, there's nothing like running. I play golf, I go walking, but there's nothing like running to give me what I need. And the buzz I get from running is just second to none. And interestingly, I go back to the earlier comments about making time for different things. I actually find, when I'm out running, and I know this might sound like a contradiction, I said I'm in the moment, but I'm out in the running, and suddenly I'll get a flash of inspiration about something that's been bothering me at work.
Yeah.
And the solution suddenly comes to me out of nowhere. I haven't been thinking about it. It just, I may pass something or somebody that suddenly I get that thought, that idea, think, oh, there's the answer to what I've been trying to solve. And I just get that from running. I love playing golf. I love walking. I do a bit of cycling, swimming, but running to me is you know, I always say, and fingers crossed doesn't happen, I say to people, if I die when I'm out running, I'll have died happy. And everybody was saying to me, I should have, I told them to get up years ago, you know, but that's probably what they'll say as they look at me lying there. But yeah, no, it's great. And I just get it. And, you know, the relationships again, and back to this connection.
Yeah.
I currently run with a group called TT Racers. We train in Trinity, well, before COVID, and we now train in numerous locations, Marley and all. And there's about probably 150 loosely in the group, and we're from all and every walk of life, and its common denominator is running. And it's such a passion for me. And that's, go back to that health and well-being piece that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That is why I was asked when I went, I remember speaking to the head of it at the time about what would we do on health well-being. I suggested a Couch to 5K program, and we started that, and that just became such a phenomenal success. But that was the passion in me, with the right team. I got a team of 8 or 10 volunteers around me. So it was all voluntary work, and it became a huge vehicle within the organization in terms of health and well-being. And just got people moving, and you know, it's the passion around that I enjoyed.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I can feel it from you now, and I can whenever we met up at those, from going back to that wellness program that you mentioned, and that I got involved as well to help the sort of division I was in, and sharing that sort of love of running, but also what I think the point that you just made there, though, is also the connection you have with people. And I think it's one of those things that I've said when I got involved in sort of into running and then into triathlon, as much as I enjoy, and I really do enjoy that aspect of it, I enjoy the training of it, I enjoy the participation, I love mass events and mass participation, but the people I have met through doing those activities are now lifelong friends, you know, and that's the bit that I think people are missing out on. by not getting involved. It doesn't have to be running, but getting involved in something that they then have that same passion for. Those are the things that the experiences that you can't quantify in some ways.
Yeah, and again, it gives you that support when you need it.
Yeah.
Whether it even is, you might have something that's troubling you. You can be standing beside somebody who's running. You're chatting to them. They don't know much more about you other than they're running. So, again, you can discuss in that. But even just for somebody to say to you, "Do you want to go running?" It's dragging you out when you don't want to go. And back to
Yeah.
that motivation piece again. There are days that you don't feel like it. Now,
Yep.
how do you do that? How do you get out? And it's by having that connection with somebody, that regular commitment, that you're just going out and you're just. And some days I said to people, you don't always have to go out and run hard. Sometimes you just go out and
Yeah.
you just listen to the birds and look at the water or whatever it might be, listen to the wind. Just a nice, easy run, but it's getting that downtime for you. And you asked about how I got into running, and I remember one of the other telling times I was in my first job in the bank. I was in Glenties in Donegal, so I was in my 20s at this stage, and dare I say, there wasn't a whole lot to do in West Donegal in the winter. So I started running, and as it kept going on for the months, then the Dublin Marathon had just started, and somebody said to me, "Are you going to run Are you training for the Dublin Marathon?" I hadn't even thought about it, and that was 1981. The first one was 1980. And I ran the next three. I then committed to running the next three Dublin. I ran 81, 2, and 3. But that was, again, people asking me, was I going to do it? And then I thought, hey, that's a good idea. And I did. And I just became known then for running around the hills and byways and everything. And it was fantastic. And we had that great support and people. And it wasn't fashionable then.
Yeah, that's very true.
It was great, I'm now at the stage, James, and I know you asked what sort of phrases and that do I live by, and one of them in relation to running, and I've had quoted back to me, which is great, is that you don't stop because you get old because you stop.
Yeah.
And I just, that's what I just try to live by. That, get up, get out, whether it's walking, running. Even during COVID, I went out and I used to do what I said to my family, adventure walks. I went out the door and I turned up a road I'd never gone up before. And I got to see things I'd never seen before. So it's getting up and getting out, whether it's a bicycle, whether it's going for a swim, a run, a walk, whatever it is, but don't stop.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to live by. Don't stop.
No, I love that. No, it's a really powerful one, because I tell you what, this may be a strange analogy, but it's when you just said that there, it's like the one that reminded me of is when, say, COVID hit, and then when there was no planes, no planes were flying. No, you couldn't, because of whatever, no travel, or so much on all the planes on the ground. What they actually say is a plane actually degrades when it's on the ground more than when it's in the air. A plane needs to keep flying in order for it to be maintained. If you just have a plane, a jet on the ground, it'll actually get worse, and you'll need more maintenance when it's just in the hangar than it is when it's flying. It's designed and built to fly. So it's the same thing with that. If you stop running, you'll actually get worse. But if you keep it going, well, whatever capacity you're able to do, as you say, you'll be able to keep going. So it kind of reminded me of that thing of like, yeah, it's like, it's don't stop because you're old, you'll get old because you stop. It's like, if you're able to keep doing it, that's what the body actually and mind needs and wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I try to do all this. I try to keep a fairly level balanced mentally if I can. And I don't, I try not to compare myself to others, if that makes sense. Because, if you're always looking over the hedge, you're always going to be thinking about something else. Yeah, sure. If somebody said to me, here's the lotto tonight, you've just won 20 million, of course I'll take it. But I'm not going to say, I'm not going to live my life as if I wishing I had that 20 million and down in the mouth, because I don't. And what I would always say there is, I don't, so really directing myself, don't compare my internal self to others' external self, because
Yeah.
I never know. I know all my own problems,
Yeah.
but I never know anybody else's.
Yes.
So what's the point me saying, oh, per me? They could be per them for the very same or for very different reasons. So,
Yeah.
just, and that I have found that certainly has kept me grounded, if you will, in it,
Yeah.
in a sense of levelness and happiness, in
Yeah.
that I'm not always comparing myself to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that I just find that certainly has helped my mental approach as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's an absolutely vital thing, because I think as well, in the sense of, I think comparison in the sense of being, people comparing themselves to each other has always been something there, is because that's just society, or whatever. But I think considering in a sense of, especially younger people now who have grown up in an age where technology has put us into a position where comparison is everywhere. It's a really important one to reinforce that. And I really like the way you put it, not comparing my internal self to the external self from someone else, because you're only going to be sending yourself down an internal path that you're not going to really resolve.
Yeah, yeah. And I know what challenges I have to face.
Mm,
I don't know what challenges you have to
yep.
face. And here's me saying, God, look at the success and all of whoever it might
Yeah.
be I'm looking at, but I don't know what's behind it.
Yeah.
What they're grappling with. It can be anything. So I just say I've always done that one. It might sound deep, but I've always
Yeah.
done
No.
that one. Just
Yeah.
it keeps me grounded in a way there.
Absolutely. No. I think it's a very powerful one. I think it's a really valid one. I love the way you shared this sort of some of the phrases and things you live by. Would there be any? I'm always interested to ask this. Are there any sort of people that you would think that have influenced you, either with your career or your life, or whether it be close or in the public eye? Any ones that's influenced you?
I have to say I was always very impressed with Nelson Mandela.
Mm,
I just the adversity that he dealt with, and then the way he extended the open hand of friendship, and that to his arch rivals, let's call them, as opposed to enemies, or
mm, yeah.
and that has always, to me, resonated in that. I'd hear people use the word hate
Yeah.
at kids and all that. I said, no, you can't hate something. You mightn't like it, or you might not be fond of it, but leave that word, because I just think it's such a strong
Mm,
negative word, and just use that. So I try to feel like bring that to bear. That you know what, yeah, you did cheese me off, or you might, but you know what, get on with it. Get over there
mm,
and be the first person to say hello, to say sorry, or whatever it is. Because if you're waiting for the other person to say it, you're
mm,
going to be waiting.
yeah.
So why should I not be first, even if I think it's not me to do it, but
Yep.
just be big enough to get on and do it. So
Mm,
that certainly would have been from a Mandela, if you like, and
yeah.
that was a big influence for me. And just watching all of that, the time when he was incarcerated and then when he was released, and how he responded to that, and became a world figure as a result.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I completely echo that. In a sense, he's definitely someone I would have always kind of gone back to as well myself. I think, and that sort of, and it's not just what he did, in a sense of, to say, reaching out to the people that who imprisoned him, but it's also the way he did it. It was just, it was just you. It was that sort of absolute, genuine sincerity. You in sense of that word of authenticity that we hear a lot about, and people, there was, it was, you could just feel it, that he absolutely meant what he did, and did what he meant. That's what I
Yeah,
took from him.
sure. And going on then as to where else, I say closer to home, my own parents give me the values today. I'm one of a family of 8. We're all still around. Both parents are long gone, but they give us that value of back to the family, the connection, keeping that connection, and just being genuine with people, I won't say being nice to people, being kind to people, being open to people, and certainly from a very early stage we got that sense from them, and I hope I've passed it on to my kids. Sometimes I wonder if I was and a lot of other stuff.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, and I think those values that you speak about absolutely shine through, because I think, and that it goes back to almost the answer to the first question. I think that whole thing of connection, obviously the initial thing you say was your family, but just even that connection piece, that value of being able to reach out to people, comes through you. So it's something, I think a lot of people say, oh, they have a value, but it's how you live it as well. How you demonstrate it is the key. And obviously, so that's something that you've done throughout your career and life, that always trying to create those connections.
Yeah, and even just as I finished up my time in the bank, I've now set up my own in a consultancy, and interestingly, it's a real gamekeeper turned poacher, and and it's funny. Quite a number of the people that I would have dealt with across the table as customers or suppliers, if you will, have actually come to me as basically their mediator when they were in difficulty with my internal stakeholders. And that in itself speaks volumes, because they're saying, well, look, we're looking to you to help us resolve this here, because we think you'd be, I'll say, objective. Now, it's very hard for me to be, as I always say to them, now you know who's paying my check here. But at the same time, it's been able to integrity and honesty with them. I tell you it as it is. I'll do the best that I can, but I'll do what's right, whatever right looks like, and making sure that the proper, as you said, the proper values are there, that it's dealt with integrity, and that certainly has come through. And when I get people coming to me who have said, "Yeah, thanks for the support you give us," even though they were across the table from me in the adversarial role, see that they got support from me is certainly satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can get that completely. It's been fantastic to talk to you, Conor. I have one more question for you, which is, what's important for your future?
Oh, there's have you another hour? Have you? There's a great question. Well, as without boring you with my age, as somebody with the grey hair and all of that, certainly that comment I mentioned to you about not stopping and all of that is the important thing for me. So it's all about the health and well-being, and obviously extend that being around for myself and for my family, and in that context, I'm saying, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get the results you got. And I've had to even address that, because I am getting slower. I am, right, and I'm very competitive, and if I run a race, even though the guy I'm passing is chasing me down the finishing straight, I'm actually not competing against him. I'm competing against myself and the clock, because I want to get better than the clock that I had the last time. And as a consequence, I've had to change my routine, like doing Pilates, doing stretching, that I just can't do enough of. I don't do them. So I need to bake those into my routine if I want to keep more, fit and healthy and active and running competitively, as opposed to just dragging myself around. So it is about the health and the physical and mental health, and just outdoor pursuits, get out, enjoying, and have a good balance. So I do want to. I'm still working, as I said. I've just set up my own consultancy business, but it's getting that balance between the work leisure time and family. And again, that shifts because as the kids move away, I have more time with myself and my wife, Joan, and then getting that balance right.
Yeah.
So that's what's important to me. Yeah, great.
Love it. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, Conor. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Not at all, James, and thank you. And the best of luck in your business. Certainly, it's fantastic, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and share. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Again, you can follow me at James Dean Coaching on Facebook and Instagram. Connect with me on LinkedIn or find out more about me on jamesdeancoaching.com.